and that was Black Dog Prowl and their track Shame. So, Alec, why don't you tell us a little bit about Black Dog Prowl?
Well, I first met them at a benefit for breast cancer research at the Hard Rock Cafe. It was one of these, I think it was 48 hours of bands all night long, and they just blew the stage up. And I've been following them ever since. That was about 4 years ago. And they're just a band that I love when they play, and I look around at the audience and I see people mouthing words that cannot be said on the radio. And
awesome.
I cannot, give you a better description of what it's like to see them live. More AM than FM. I saw them with More AM than FM not too long ago at Roadside Grill, and just the whole night was like that, which was absolutely fantastic.
That's fantastic. And for you listeners out there, I want you to know that we were sitting here and playing these songs, and even the ones that Alec didn't bring in today, I'm playing the songs and he's telling me, oh yeah, I remember when I saw them at this venue, or I saw these guys at this venue, or they were great to take pictures of. And it was just amazing that he's been around the scene for so long. It's such a treat to have you here. So what I really want to do is have you share a little bit with everybody more about yourself. So why don't you tell us your story. How did you get your start?
Well, I've been a huge fan of live music for years, going all the way back to college. And I guess it was about 2002, I finally got my hands on a digital camera. And the rest, as they say, is history. Started following a couple of friends of mine around and taking pictures, and then they introduced me to other people. I became friends with them. Then social media started to really take off, so there was a place to actually publish the photos. And it's just kind of taken a life of its own. And I get to fulfill my hobby by going out and seeing live music, and it's an enormous amount of fun. The DC area has got so much great music. I focus mostly on rock and roll, but I've also gone to jazz shows, go-go shows, even some classical music. There's so much going on any given night. It's absolutely incredible.
That's amazing. Wow. So you started out taking pictures of these, and then where does it? So what does it go from here? Is there like a goal? What's the where are you headed, or is there a destination, or is it just fun?
Well, right now it's just fun. I'm a computer nerd by day, and so I don't really have any inclination of this being anything other than a hobby. At the same time, I am trying to dabble in doing some promotions. We've got Roxplosion Fest coming up August 13th on Saturday at the Rock and Roll Hotel. Some of the bands that we're playing tonight are going to be in that show. And we'll see. Well, I don't really have any specific plans, just that I love going out and seeing live music, and taking pictures of the bands and sharing it with them seems to work really well for that. So
yeah, I mean, you've been out to take pictures of Fellowcraft, which is one of the ways that I got to know you. And actually, you were taking pictures at other shows that I was going to before Fellowcraft even started. And it's been the photos. I see so many local artists, or DC artists really, and even artists not from DC, that are using your photos as their Facebook profile photo. Or when you do you get excited when that happens? Is that a good feeling, or?
Oh, absolutely. It's I'm honored when anybody uses my photo for something like that. And when I go onto Facebook, and it has the people you might know section, and I scroll through that and I see, here and there some people that are using one of my, I don't know who they are other than the band that they were in, because they're maybe from New York or Richmond or someplace, and they're using a photo that I took as their profile photo. Of course, that's fantastic, and I love it, and I'm humbled.
That's amazing. So, well then tell us about, so there's cool moments when you see your photos up online from people that you don't necessarily know, but you might be connected to in some way. What are other proud moments or cool moments that come to mind as you think back over these years of taking photographs of bands around town?
Well, certainly, if a band has a CD release and uses a photo of mine, maybe on the CD or in the marketing, um, I did have Republic up in Tacoma Park. Their first night, this was about 2 years ago, of having live music. They had Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. Uh, is a He runs a nonprofit organization, the headquarters of which is in Tacoma Park, very close to Republic. So they decided to make it a fundraiser um, for this organization, fairvote.org, as well as an inaugural electric, amplified music night. And Chris Novoselic was playing an accordion with, I believe it was a mixture of the Cowards Choir, and the Beanstalk Library backing him up. And I was right there in the front, and I was taking some pictures. And he came up to me afterwards and said, "Did you get any good pictures?" And I said, I think so. I was totally overwhelmed. It was Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. I made a print for Republic, and they have it hanging on their wall. And the following year, one of the waitstaff texted me a photo of Chris Novoselic looking at the photo that I took of him.
No way.
And that's I'd say that is probably my to date my proudest moment.
Wow. That's been a while. So there's been some cool moments. What about learning moments? What have you learned? What have you picked up along the way, for you personally, and what you do?
Well, there's some surprising things have happened by doing so much photography in DC. I know my way around the city really well,
Okay.
which is very interesting and non-photographic aspect of this. I've just learned sort of the ins and outs, what time to arrive at a venue to make things work well, to meet the band. And beforehand, there's usually, when I go to a show, there's one or two bands that I've seen before and one or two bands that I haven't. I like to talk to the bands that I haven't seen before they get on stage, and ask permission to take their photos, just so that they know that I'm going to be there, and it's not a shock when they've lost themselves in a guitar solo and they open their eyes and I'm there taking a picture. They know that I was going to be there. And then just all the different venues. DC9 has a particular type of lighting, and versus the Velvet Lounge, which has a completely different type of lighting. And then there's all these new venues that have come up, like Setcraft, which you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And each venue lends itself to a little bit different style of photography, as do the bands. A 7-piece band like the NRIs is a different. There's a different technique that goes into photographing them versus a lone singer-songwriter on a stool with a guitar. And I've really learned the differences of how to get the most out of something like that, regardless of the venue and regardless of the bands, or at least I that's what I strive for.
Right. Gotcha. So when you're preparing for something, like what is the process when you get in there? When you assess the scene, are you looking at lighting? Are you evaluating? Is it a trial and error where you just start taking pictures and adjusting settings until you get it right? What's the process like in your head when you're taking photos of these bands?
There's not a lot that I can really do ahead of time. I look at the band once they get set up. There seems to always be one member of the band that's in a particularly dark spot on the stage. So
Being the drummer, sometimes it's the drummer that's back there in the back. Yes.
Yeah, I've actually got special equipment just for taking pictures of drummers. I learned over the years. I try to be diverse. I want photos of left-handed guitar players as well as right-handed guitar players. I want photos of tuba players. Not a lot of tuba players.
This is true.
And I do like to try to take pictures of the drummers, because I think that the drummers are given the short shift on a lot of rock and roll photography. So that is something that I've actually made a bit of a focus on. No pun intended.
Well, I just got to say thanks on behalf of the drummers, because it's definitely, yeah. Sometimes there's a lot of pictures of guitarists, and man, that lead singer is just so photogenic. So on behalf of drummers out there, I definitely say thanks for that one. And I wanted to ask you, so one of the kind of final questions that I love to ask whenever I meet folks in the scene is, what's one piece of advice you would offer to DC musicians and musicians, or, well, let's say DC musicians, and then what's one piece of advice that you would also offer DC music fans?
Well, for musicians, my advice would be promote yourself. Make sure when somebody goes to your Facebook page or your website that they'll know when your next show is. I think a lot of bands depend on the venues or the other bands that they're appearing with to do that, which is fine to a certain degree, but I'm a fan of a lot of different bands, and sometimes it can be a little frustrating trying to work out my schedule of where I'm going to go, and I go to a band's website or I go to their Facebook page and they don't have any information about their upcoming shows. Well, promote yourself. It's free. It doesn't cost any money, and there's people that want to see you. Don't make it difficult.
Got it. So, okay. And what about, and so that's for the musicians. What about for the fans? For the fans,
get involved. Like their page on Facebook. Leave comments on the photos. Follow them on Instagram. Tweet about them. If you went to a good show and maybe you're at the show and there is that photogenic singer or that blistering guitar solo, tweet about it on the fly right there. It all helps, and it's a way that you can be a part of the event, and social media allows for that to happen. So take advantage of it. Do it.
And I have to say, Roxplosion, when he comes and takes photos of shows, normally will post 3 or 4 of them immediately, like right after the show, or I don't know how that magic happens that you do it, but some of them come up right away, and then some of them are later. And I do have to say, as a musician, when you get off stage, you're in the zone when you're up there performing, and so to have those tweets and those Instagram moments and the mentions on Facebook of somebody who really loved the show or posting that photo, I would totally. That's a great point, Alec. That's a really good one for fans. I truly appreciate it. That great idea. So this show's about music, so I want to play some more of the stuff that you brought us today. So next up, what do you have for us here? It looks like the Jones.
The Jones are a 3-piece band, and this song is The News.
Oh, The News. All right, so we'll play The News by the Jones.